Uh, Good afternoon to everyone. Having such a interesting session on live videos. We are talking about performance. Okay, pretty mundane, but I must say, what you measure gets improved, and I'm quite sure every CXO wants to have improvement on their performance. So 30 minutes, great audience, two marketeers here who have lots of they're vocal about the challenges that they face in performance marketing, and two solution providers who probably may be having solution for that. Just to put the context in place, I mean, all of us know InfoEdge and Nykaa, and we in India interacting with those brands. Would like to have some more info on what sort of solutions that you guys are working on. You can start with Santi and probably then later on with Hanson.
So thank you. I'm Santi Perini with Cake, and very briefly, Cake is a technology platform, a software platform, if you will, and we really focus on helping our customers better understand their digital marketing spend, and then help them optimize that spend. And this can be anything from your affiliate channels, your performance channels, through Facebook spend, really any online media through Google. Probably best known for working with large performance networks here in India, companies like Apple, Wadogo, but also with large brands in the States, companies like Thomson Reuters in the financial services industry, Barclays Bank in the UK, Virgin America in the States. So again, very briefly, we track all digital spend, we help attribute that spend, and then ultimately we help to optimize that spend.
So briefly put, it is more of a attribution modeling. You can help the brands do the attribution modeling across all the channels. Is that what you work on?
Attribution modeling is definitely at the heart of the solution, but you first have to gather the data. Once you have a vast amount of data, applying attribution modeling is very helpful in the optimization process. So think of it as tracking attribution optimization through advanced analytics.
Great. Hanson, what is eMobi working on?
eMobi is one of the leading performance marketing agency in the world. Along with our 6 years history, the development our premium product metrics like SSP platforms, which can monetize our more than thousands of app developers' inventory in most efficient way and guarantee the eCPM. And also with our DSP, automatically manage and optimize the campaigns with the best value of the ads placements and with the program buying. And also we have our media buy team. All the team has more than 6 years history, expertise industry history to help our clients to do the customized campaigns. And also we have the retargeting platforms, which help the e-commerce and cross-border e-commerce clients to make their transaction sales, drive their transaction sales, and also guarantee the ROI. And currently, we launched the video platform, which offer free creative making for our clients. And above all the products metrics, and we offer the one turnkey solutions to our clients for the performance marketing.
Yeah, sure. So I think I can understand is that there is a traffic, you have a technology by which you can get the right traffic, which can be converting with the right ROI. Now, coming back to the marketeers here, Sumit, question for you, okay? InfoEdge, 4 verticals, jobs, matrimony, education, realty, okay, real estate. Multiple channels, okay? What I'm saying that multiple devices where you have desktop, you have app, you have mobile pages. Now, it must be very difficult for you to probably have different parameters to judge the performance across verticals and across various different devices. So, how have you built it? How have you been measuring it? And how have you been optimizing it? Any challenges there?
Well, I think the first portion of your question, it's not too difficult. Because all verticals and all our businesses, as you said, are very, very different, and they all have different objectives. So the first portion, verticalizing the objectives, I think that's not a difficult part at all. 7-8 years ago, when mobile started becoming big, So what were we doing? Yeah, performance marketers. In our case, in InfoEdge, acquisition is, in the case of Naukri, a registration, which means people have to fill a 3-page form on the desktop. And that's where most of our performance marketing money goes. In the case of Jeevan Sathi, also it's a profile acquisition, so it's not just clicks, it's not just traffic, it's actually people registering. It was easier done in the desktop days. What did we do when mobile came in? We started mobile advertising a few years ago. The first thing as performance marketers we did was do responsive design. This should look okay on mobile. And then in that journey, you learn that there are two things that one should and definitely should take care of. One is the audience profile. Mobile obviously got you much younger audiences. The attention spans were much lesser. The very important thing is actually just not responsive design, but the whole UI and UX experience. Know the devices or the platforms for what they give. Mobile is not that search related, but more browse. People prefer to browse on a mobile than search. It's difficult to register on a mobile. So you can't just shorten your forms and have 6 pages and then expect people to do the same thing that they would do very easily on a desktop. So I think what is really challenging and how people learn on the journey is not just responsive design. Think of the user, think of the platforms, think UI, UX, and design your landing pages accordingly. So some of your objectives might shift. So for example, we still want registration on the mobile, whether it is through Facebook, whether it is through AdWords, because it's the performance marketing agenda, right? That won't basically change to reach. But can we do it differently? So can I actually capture 5 fields and then do push downs and get fields over the next 12 hours or 24 hours? In the app scenario, obviously that's much easier to do. So I think those are the things as marketers we need to kind of be careful of, and that's how it's different.
So you'll have different metrics. You'll have a higher CPL at mobile and lower at desktop. Is that what it is? Or there are other few parameters like bounce rates and everything that else you'll calculate?
So we'll definitely have different metrics. For example, for our own performance marketing, we have our own predictive algorithms, that decide quality. So in the case of Jeevan Sathi, or even in the case of Naukri, it's not easy to attach a resume on the mobile. Whereas on the desktop, our form gives you an option to attach your Word resume, Now, so the resume that comes through the mobile, whatever it might be on CPL, whether cheaper, at par, is not as rich. So when a recruiter looks at a mobile resume, so innovating and thinking, how can we actually get this guy to upload his CV? Because it's not very easy done through the mobile route. Everybody doesn't use Dropbox, So those are the challenges, and therefore metrics remain, there is a difference. And however, you need to see how can you work with the product guys within the organization to get the same output, because the recruiter wants the same CV. The groom who's looking for a bride needs the same kind of profile and information.
Definitely. I think, Sumit, I really like the way you have talked about one part is that getting a person engaged through the mobile one, and then having interaction with the product guys and make sure that he finishes the rest of the journey there. So a very good way of actually just not looking at the metrics, but working on the UI and UX and working onto it. Hitesh, e-commerce, okay, app versus non-app.
I think it's a very good question. It's a very digitally advanced audience here, and any e-com player has the biggest dilemma of how to track performances on the existing users of app. The app ecosystem will have 2 phases. One is the new acquisitions that you get, and which you can still optimize. You can ask your vendors to bill you on a cost per event basis. Try to run that first event of a purchase or product view, which is still fine. It gives you a varied indication of what is the kind of new acquisition that you're doing. That is 20% of it. 70-80% is your core audience that you've already acquired over the last 1 year. Any top e-commerce company will be sitting on at least on a base of 1 million active people. And so the most difficult part is, what is the motivation that these million active people have to come to open the app and make a purchase. It's very easy to check from your deep links, which you can probably do on a Facebook or Google, but that is just 20% of it. Remaining 80% of motivation that happens is like really difficult. I just have an anecdotal example. I usually call up customers who really kind of show some very extraordinary behavior. So we launched Mac, which was like a very, very premium brand. It's come for the first time in India, and there was one customer who made a purchase worth 14,000 rupees, and in all our assumption we thought that this is the customer who probably saw she saw the best post on Instagram, and probably later on came and bought. She didn't come from any click. She just opened the app and purchased. And then when I asked her that, how did you purchase, and I'm just quoting verbatim right now, she said that मैंने आपका ad देखा था टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया में, एंड मैंने कब देखा था, शी सेड मैंने 4 दिन पहले देखा था. फिर मेरे को दिमाग में था हाँ मैक यहाँ पे होगा. फिर मैं रास्ते में जा रही थी, फिर मैंने एक होर्डिंग देखा जहाँ पे मैक का शोरूम था. मैंने कहा अरे ये तो नाइका में मिलता है, कम एंड परचेज. नाउ दिस काइंड ऑफ बिहेवियर इज एब्सोल्युटली नाइटमेरिश to kind of track on existing users now.
Yeah, that's okay. So another question, I think it's a bit of straight question there, but if you have 100 rupees, okay, for the budget, okay, what percentage would you put it on to app download and going for that new user on mobile or a desktop? Because I am quite sure the way Sumit said is that the metrics are different. One probably is about lifetime value. Okay, the app is there onto it and she sees it. Your consumer sees it on a TV or a print ad or a somewhere outside, and then that app is there. She searches for it and she goes and buys 14,000 rupees. So how do you track that lifetime value? How do you attribute it to the source where actually got that download happening? So what's your take? 100 rupees, where would you put that?
So luckily we are Indian funded, so I don't have investor pressure. I don't go crazy on the app install campaigns because I get equal number of installs on organic also, as far as I'm doing a good job on social media or display marketing. So I would probably put around 30 rupees out of 100 on new acquisitions and make sure I extract every juice of my vendor to get the best possible download. And the remaining 70% I'll still play around on the content part, which is the display part, which kind of deep links to any part of my
So what are the parameters? Because you said that you will get the best out of your affiliate partner. Okay, so what are the parameters that you look for? Is it cost per install, download, value, lifetime value, and how do you actually measure it? Because ultimately it comes down to that transparent measurement.
Lifetime value will primarily have 2-3 things. First thing is when does the first purchase happen? What is the value of first purchase? When does the repeat purchase happen of that customer? Out of that, you kind of derive a value on an 18 months timeline. So what I usually tell now all my partners, I tell them to optimize on only cost per event, and the event here being the first purchase. So what I started was, initially they obviously were hesitant. So they said, let's do on first registration. The game started from install, then it moved to first open, then it moved to first registration. Now finally it has moved to purchase.
Great. I think there are very many, what I hear from you, Hitesh, is that there are very many stages in the life cycle of a consumer who interacts with you. Coming back to Hanson, yesterday we were talking about the type of, your international experience in terms of the different needs of your customer, wherein they are looking for users at different life phases of buying. So do you want to throw some light on that?
Yes, sure. According to our experience, each of the vertical of the mobile companies, when they just doing the user acquisition program, they have different time frame to do the program. In the very beginning, when a new app launches, let's take an example for e-commerce. And when a new app launches, they will make exposure of their brand and their apps. So they are going to build the campaign for the burst campaign. That is the chart ranking campaign. So usually will takes for incentive traffic to just drive their apps to be top 5 or top 2 to be ranking for quite a while. And then this can attract a lot of organic traffic from the market. Then keep the incentive traffic and the burst campaign for quite a while. Then they just begin to set up some certain KPI in the second time frame. That is, in this second time frame, they are going to acquire the quality customers, which means they can not only install the apps, but also register it and also make purchase. So that came to a stable time frame for the user acquisition. So after this time frame, they will get third period. That is to make their ROI and drive their sales and transactions. So they just like use the affiliate networks and use a deep link to drive the traffic to their apps. And also they can use some of a program according to, to the market seasons. For example, we collaborate with one of the keyboard traffic, and in last Diwali seasons, when a lot of the e-commerce users, they are going to buy some of the gifts in Diwalis. So when they just use their smartphones and use a keyboard to tap in some of the item of the gift, and then we will suggest it, okay, you can just go to which of the e-commerce platform to choose it and to buy it. So that is a campaign, and it is a strategic partnership between Yamobi and our publishers to do the campaign. So we do a lot of this similar kinds of cases in this stage of the customer acquisition campaigns. So that is the 3 time frame to do the.
Great. Just when you were talking about it, I was just thinking, and something is playing on up my mind. What Hitesh also said, there are multiple touch points. Okay, which it is said that more than 92% of the people, before they actually buy a product or a service, there are minimum 8 to 9 touch points which happen with the brand. Okay, the way you said, she sees it a print ad and also. So, Simi, the question to you, in a scenario where you understand that, okay, there are multiple touch points, the typical media mix has to be, upper funnel, lower funnel, multiple of those. But the problem is how to attribute right metrics and the performance is a big task. We had whenever I talk to a marketer, it is always a heated discussion there. So how do you see that challenge? How big is it? What are the things the marketeers have there? What are your learnings on that?
Well, it's still a challenge for us, so I don't have a solution, and maybe Santi can give us one. And so we've been on the journey. We still believe in last click attribution. We do recognize that today everybody is actually chasing audiences rather than channels. That's how the landscape has changed, and we've tried a few things. But let me just tell you what are some of the challenges. Maybe people in the audience have also faced them, and I would love to hear actually from anyone what the solution should be. So I think, we've been firstly thinking, what should my look back window be? We started with assist click, and then we said, no, not click, yeah. The day is view through, because came Facebook and YouTube. And then we said, okay, so for attribute, let's also look at view through. There's so much click fraud, and so why only look at assist click? And then should we go 3 channels behind? Should we go 8 channels behind? We've had various companies who do attribute modeling come to us. Everybody's algorithm is, of course, different. We've tried different things. Should we give the last click 40% versus another algorithm saying we give 50, etc., etc. And then there's the offline thing, just building on to what Hitesh said, every part of advertising, and that's the way advertising is supposed to work, right? Everything that we do is going to influence the consumer's mind. And whether it's a print ad, whether it's TV, whether it's a lot of display that you do. So I think where we're struggling, and we're still on that journey, we haven't cracked it for any of our brands, is what is the right attribution. So we've actually done 3-4 times we've looked at attribute modeling, but I don't think we have the perfect solution. We're still on that journey. We still keep working with a lot of partners, but we would love help in that direction.
Smith, when you were talking, I asked a simple question in terms of this digital attribution modeling, but I think you said offline too. Okay, that makes the life
offline is very important as well, right?
Yes,
Doesn't
definitely.
that help us create? And as brand marketeers, ultimately all of us want to be in a situation where we are actually getting everything organically and directly, and not having to spend so much dollars to get traffic. So
Sandy, would you like to elaborate on this to start with first the digital, and then what are the technologies happening wherein even the online and offline can be attributed, saying that Hitesh's problem wherein someone saw something outside and then it got attributed on, she went and searched on Google and clicked on organic, and a lot of 8-9 click streams. So how do you, are there technologies, how it works, how how relevant it is, how right it is, all those probabilistic, deterministic. Would you like to throw some light on that?
Absolutely. And I think Hitesh did a good job of describing it as nightmarish. I think you did a very good job as well of talking about understanding a customer journey. How soon in the process should you begin? And how do you even know where that process begins? Well, we're all buying media, and each one of these media purchases, whether it be through Facebook, through organic search, where you're able to understand referral links, it's important to track. And so by having tracking links embedded in that digital media from the beginning, you're able to understand where journeys begin. And the really tricky part is that consumer has not yet identified themselves. They're completely anonymous. So when they show up to your site, they're willing to fill out a form. They're willing to give you a resume. They're willing to purchase from you, install your app. But there can be, much of the buy decision. I think Gartner estimates somewhere between 65 and 70% of any online purchasing decision happens before they ever identify themselves as a user. So that's why when you mentioned, Prasad, that attribution is important, absolutely true, but it begins with tracking, understanding the data. Then when they finally do convert, whether that's filling out a form, buying online, you can take all that knowledge of the customer journey and apply it to an attribution model. We're all familiar with last touch. The last thing that consumer did was probably the most important, but we find sometimes the last things people do are go to a site for a coupon code. That coupon probably didn't drive their buy decision. It just helped them get a lower price for it.
Yes, that's true. Probably the couponing site came at the last minute and through the organic searches. And but coming back to the point here, online and offline and multi devices, because the consumer is searching onto his mobile device for especially a high value item. Okay, she may be looking for the item on other particular product on the mobile, and then she goes to desktop and buys. So how do you do that attribution modeling there?
So online, offline, cross-device is one of the most challenging technical pieces of all this. We do have a position that we believe that all media will eventually be digital. So if you think of this, if you go into a store today, there's beacon technology that connects with your phone and lets that consumer-based retailer know that you're in their store. You may leave that store without purchasing anything and immediately receive an email because they know your proximity to the store. When you make your purchase, you're probably using some sort of electronic transaction. Could be your Apple iPhone and Apple Pay, could be your credit card. They know more about you. When you ask for a receipt, they give that, and they ask for an email address to save paper. All of these things give them the ability to better understand that consumer journey. Even television and radio, those offline channels, if you think of Hulu and Netflix that are starting to do very focused advertising, they know your IP address. They know you're on a smart television. They know more about you as a consumer. There's going to be very little difference between our televisions and our smartphones. So we believe all media will go digital. Even the ones that aren't, you can make estimates. Cross-device, you have things like fingerprinting, IP addresses. So there's technology available, but as a marketer, leveraging that technology, taking advantage of it, and then applying attribution models that are no longer humans that are figuring this out. It has to be machine learned. It has to be very data model driven.
That will be an interesting future for sure, wherein one can get a really good unified view of all the channels, not only digital but offline. And as you sort of said, that offline is no longer, in future, not going to be just offline, but a lot of digital connect there. Now, one thing which really lingers in my mind, okay, marketers will always like to have that last cookie attribution, and the publishers may like to have, they will come out with all sort of modeling and saying that this is important, that is important, especially with all new ad formats, new innovations. Just before we saw all those live videos, I don't know how we attribute, the last, sales happening on a Coke or, all those brands that they talked about. Hitesh, what is your view on that? He has a very strong view on that. Very vocal
I
on
hope
that.
Gulshan is not here from Times of India. They'll probably stop doing business with me. So I feel any media which was sold by impressions will have to become programmatic. If it does not, it will perish. It will not exist. Because I've been hearing about the OTT platforms. The OTT will be on videos like a Woot or Hotstar. Then OTT will be on chat, which will be like a Hike Messenger or WhatsApp. Anybody who does not participate in the programmatic engine, the exchanges, will not sustain. And the proof of pudding is like 4 years back, 5 years back, when I was just doing buying from my company side for media, we used to make this huge noise that wow, today we have got Times of India banner, roadblock, and I've paid this amount, and used to tell people go and click on it. And today what happens is now we see Times of India is not depending too much on that roadblock, but depending more on Columbia technology, which is the native programmatic buying. So there's the biggest example of the biggest publisher moving into that model. So I think whatever people say, the impression buying will stop, I guess, and it'll move to programmatic, and that is the whole objective to what Sandy was talking about. And I'm happy you should say this to Patanjali that everything will be digitized in a few days. So, I think that is, and I hold to my fort for that, and I don't think so anything will change. I've been pretty okay with consumer pattern
So
understanding.
one part
far.
is going everything on programmatic, which I definitely agree with, including the TV slots and TV ads. But my question here is probably let me rephrase it. Would you buy it on CPM? Because what sort of models that you will have wherein you have to actually say that it is what is the ROI? Because these publishers with the new formats probably may not be agreeing to get to a table and say that this is what is going to be your CPA.
I'll tell a publisher that I will not penalize you for a cost per click at the last click attribution. I'll say okay, I'll give you a 48-hour window. If the person today interacts on my ad on your OTT platform and comes back and makes a purchase in 48 hours, I'll give you the credit for it. Irrespective the person sees the ad on Facebook or comes through Google search, that much credit I have to give, provided the customer maybe is a new customer. I have to probably deeply identify. Now, if there's a deep customer who's been purchasing for the last 8-9 months, obviously I cannot give complete credit to that OTT source or the impression source. So even now, for that matter, I don't buy impression. I still, as much as possible, negotiate on a click, and then eventually translate the click into either a first click purchase or a last click purchase.
Great. We covered the topic is very deep and wide, and I'm quite sure there are a lot of facets to it. We hardly have 3 minutes here. We can take a few questions, at least 2 or 3 questions. Please identify yourself, and if you want to answer from any one of us, mention the name. Otherwise, it is open for the all panel members.
Hi, sir. I'm Karan Parekh from Axis Bank. Okay, so this is for the entire panel. The question is with respect to the app versus non-app discussion which you had. So, just wanted to know what do you think about the PWA which would be coming, the progressive web app which Flipkart Lite version have. So, in terms of performance marketing, how will it? I mean, will it help or no? Just wanted to discuss that.
I think first let's see the adoption. I mean, 3 big players, they came out with light side, and I have not seen any performance metric around the light side different than a mobile site. It's been pretty much the same. How many people have seen the ad? How many people clicked and came to light side? How many added to cart? How many purchased? Typically, it remains the same. Progressive web app is for me an extension of light side, or probably singularity of a light side. And I don't think so any metric would be different for people other than what they have for a mobile site. Conversion for even a PWA, progressive web app. It is an app experience within the browser. So they are basically replicating it, but at the end of the day, it is still a mobile site. I would probably, if I launch it, I will be a little bullish on the conversion. So if mobile gives me a 1% conversion, that is from entry point to purchase, that is checkout, I will probably bet high on PW. I'll probably say a 2.5 to 3% conversion, especially because it's targeting the low-end Android user or people with limited 3G connectivity. So maybe the hunger for them to make a purchase, I feel, will be much more. So I will probably put a little more bullish benchmark on that within the mobile matrices.
Maybe what I also think, because I think the question was about app versus the PWA. So inherently, app probably will have may have advantage of getting into the life of the user again and again. And for PWA, probably you have to buy media to get in touch with him again.
I think they're different users. PWA app users will be app users. PWA users will be PWA users. If I have the phone with a memory of 30 GB or 40 GB and I've got a 4G geo speed running all over the corner of my house, I don't still mind getting the app. And it depends. If I don't have the ability of downloading a full functional app or getting a 3G, I am in a remote place, so I will still move to PWA. I can tell you right now from my experience that what Google does is they automatically convert your website, a heavy 3G mobile site, into a light site. It's called Google Web Lite. And if you look at the customers of Google Web Lite, they're very different. Right, my app customer is very different from Google Web Lite customers. So if there's any ecom player around here who want to understand who are the kind of people who will come on PWA, just slice and dice your Google Web Lite customers, see what are the locations, what are the kind of purchase they do. Is it some 999 level, is it some 699 levels, and which locations they buy from. Get to the pin codes on the deliveries, and you'll kind of figure out who are these different kind of customers. Advanced customers, I still feel, will stay on the app mode.
I'll kind of just add to that. For us, we would definitely do a PWA. We just launched one on Naukri, but not on every vertical, because I agree with Hitesh completely that it's actually a different user. So the evolved, advanced user who has memory, who's got data, will obviously go to app. But we would definitely do it because it just gives a much better experience to a lot of users who just can't afford you just because, from whatever the challenges of connectivity, etc. are. So I personally feel that at least in our verticals, Jeevan Sathi, Naukri, which goes to tier 3, tier 4 towns, a lot of people kind of want to access this. It will be a better experience definitely than our mobile site. Maybe 99 acres, we haven't thought of it as yet because it's a different kind of socio-economic strata that you're looking at, and that might follow. But at least we would definitely go for one
That will be
because
an
it gives
interesting
access.
metrics. Thanks, Hitesh. I think once I go back, probably analytics that I have to look into and find out what sort of convergence which will happen on AMP and Google Lite. Any other question here? We hardly have 30 odd seconds, and probably the last question you have to be brief. Yes.
Hi, thank you so much for the interesting panel. This is Manbir from Cake. I have a question divided into 3 parts actually. So first would be for Hitesh. So Hitesh, now that you've entered into a e-commerce business and it's you have a lot of competitions coming in from the already grown up giants that are like Flipkart and Amazons of the world, definitely you would have a niche that you're working on. So what would be your 3 top questions for traffic providers when you're working on performance marketing? Maybe sales campaign that you do, or a cost per install, or a registration campaign that you do while you're firing, when you're counting on events. What would be your top 3 questions for traffic providers? And then if Hansen could answer those 3 questions for you, this would be the part A of my question. And part B, probably if we have some time, I can ask a question to Prasad. Thank you.
Okay, so the question that I always have are unanswered usually. My first question is, where the hell are you getting the traffic from, right? So a lot of partners, I say that, okay, I explode so much money on Google and Facebook, and this is where I stop. So where are you getting more people from if they're not searching on Google and they don't have a Facebook account? Because I think I've kind of explored that territory, and if I'm not finding people, then you must be fetching them from somewhere else. For example, a Coupon Nation or Coupon Dinya. So that's the first question I ask, that where are you fetching the traffic from? The second question I usually again ask them that I would probably want to compensate more for a new user versus a repeat user. So what is the kind of new user strategy you can come up for me, right, when you're getting it? Because I still feel that Nykaa, in terms of the brand spread, has enough pull to get a repeat usage, because some of the brands are totally exclusive with us and they're not available on the larger marketplaces. And I think the third question in the end would be that whatever campaign they do, what are the kind of learnings they share? So it's very difficult to get that, right? So what happens is you invest in something and the campaign gets done. Either you meet objectives, either you don't, or you don't meet objectives. In either case, the learning sharing is a very, very difficult task. Where did you get the traffic from? What did you get to know? Who are the right publishers for you to source for Nykaa? What should you be doing in future? I mean, do we have to pay a premium, or should we be paying less where we can save some cost? I think these are the primary
I
three
think
questions.
source, quality, and learnings. That is what I want. We have already exhausted our time here. Thanks, audience. You had been a great audience there. Thanks to my panelist members there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, panelists.